Imagine a worldview where your soul is like graded exactly like a gemstone.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right. A reality where some people are considered literal flawless diamonds and others are, well, they're classified as ordinary everyday gravel.
That is definitely not your standard self-help approach.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Usually when we approach a text about, self-improvement or spirituality, it's comforting.
Yeah, it's about mindfulness or finding inner peace.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or maybe just being a little kinder to yourself. It stays safely within the guardrails of our everyday kind of egalitarian reality.
Right, the idea that we're all fundamentally equal.
Yeah. But today, we are completely demolishing those guardrails. We are diving into a highly unique, deeply esoteric text from August 2005.
Yes, and this text was written by an author named Shuafeng in Harare, Zimbabwe. It's titled Preface to the Celestial Cultivation Chapter.
Which is quite a title.
It really is. And for you listening right now, we just need to clarify the mission of this deep dive.
Yeah, we have to set the stage here.
Because we are unpacking a worldview that is intentionally provocative. I mean, this isn't a gentle philosophical essay.
Not even slightly.
No, it presents itself as a literal, functional map of the unseen universe and human destiny. It basically categorizes human spiritual potential and challenges us to look far beyond our standard five senses.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the sheer ambition here is just wild.
It's massive.
It is. We're going to use this source as a mental exercise tailored specifically for you, the listener. It's designed to challenge how you view the hidden limits, or, the complete lack of limits, of human capability.
And to be clear, we are simply going to impartially report on the ideas contained in this original material.
Right, we're not endorsing it, we're just stepping into its framework to see what we can learn from its absolute audacity.
Which is honestly the best way to approach material this unconventional. You don't have to adopt a belief system to extract value from a thought experiment.
Exactly.
And the thought experiment begins by asking us to fundamentally reevaluate how we categorize the physical world around us.
Yeah, because to understand this ultimate vision of human potential, we first have to understand the author's baseline view of reality.
Right, which is built on a very strict, undeniable hierarchy of quality.
The argument actually opens with the geology lesson.
Yes, it does. A geology lesson that focuses specifically on gemstones.
Right, ranking them based on incredibly rigid physical properties like hardness, refractive index, purity, and crystal structure.
The author lays out a very systematic breakdown. So diamonds sit at the absolute top.
The finest of gems.
Exactly. Unbreakable and perfectly structured.
Yeah.
And then below that, you have a high-grade tier with rubies, sapphires, and emeralds.
Okay, makes sense.
Then comes a mid-grade tier, and that features things like tourmalines, crystals, and jade.
Got it.
Lower grade includes organic materials, like pearls and amber.
Yeah.
And finally, at the very bottom, you have ordinary granite and just common stones.
It is a completely unsentimental view of matter. Like a diamond is a diamond and granite is granite, and no amount of wishing is going to change their internal structures.
Right. It's just physics to the author.
Which is a very neat, structured way of looking at rocks. But the sharp turn happens when Shuang takes this exact same rigid hierarchical logic and applies it directly to human beings.
Yeah, that's where it gets intense. The author categorizes all of humanity into 5 distinct types without a second of hesitation.
Oh, yeah.
You have the ignorant at the bottom, then the worldly, the ordinary, the virtuous, and finally at the top, the celestial beings.
And to hammer this point home, there is a vividly mechanical analogy about oil in the text.
Oh, the oil analogy. Yeah, that's a crucial part of the argument.
Like a gasoline engine needs gasoline.
Yeah.
A diesel engine needs diesel. Yeah. You literally cannot put kerosene into an airplane.
No, that would be a disaster.
Right, and you definitely cannot use industrial lubricating oil to fry your dinner.
Please don't try that. But yeah, the text goes on to say, hydraulic oil cannot replace medicinal safflower oil, and animal fat cannot replace light oil.
It's just relentless example.
It is. But the author uses them to establish a foundational rule for this universe.
Mm-hmm.
The rule is that things, and by extension people, have fundamentally different internal natures.
Right.
And trying to treat them all as identical is not just incorrect, it's functionally disastrous.
Okay, I have to pause us here and push back a little bit on behalf of anyone listening right now.
Sure, to go ahead.
Because in our modern society, suggesting that people are fundamentally different grades of oil, or that someone is a diamond while someone else is granite, that is deeply uncomfortable.
It definitely goes against the grain.
Yeah, it clashes directly with the foundational ideal that we are all created equal. It sounds, I don't know, elitist, or even deterministic.
Well, Shufeng anticipates that exact discomfort.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The underlying rationale provided is that our modern societal insistence on absolute equality
Hmm.
is just looking at the wrong metrics entirely.
Okay, what do you mean by wrong metrics?
The source text emphasizes that these hierarchical differences have absolutely nothing to do with physical appearance, race, societal class, gender, or financial wealth.
So it's not about what you look like or what you own.
Exactly. Those are all considered surface-level mortal distractions. The author claims these are differences in what is called our non-material structure,
Non-material structure.
right? Or another term used is our root capacity. It is a hierarchy of spirituality, knowledge, and wisdom.
Oh, I see. So it's not about the physical hardware we're born with, it's about the invisible software running in the background.
That is a great way to put it.
Yes.
And refusing to acknowledge that this invisible software varies from person to person doesn't actually make everyone equal.
What does it do then?
According to the author, this just makes you spiritually blind.
Wow.
Yeah. If you don't recognize these internal hierarchies and understand your own non-material structure, you're basically doomed to a mediocre life. You'll just drift without any clear goals, trying to run a jet engine on cooking oil.
Okay, so if we accept this premise for the sake of the deep dive, if we assume these hidden non-material differences actually exist inside us, how does this manifest in everyday human behavior?
Right, because we don't walk around with our non-material structure stamped on our foreheads.
Exactly. Because on the outside, we all look like we are running the exact same hardware.
Well, the text explicitly acknowledges our physical similarities. It points out we all have the same facial features, the 5 organs, the 6 viscera, arms and legs.
Yeah, we're all biologically human.
Right. We all experience the 7 emotions and 6 desires. On the surface, an ordinary stone and an unpolished diamond might look identical to the untrained eye.
Right.
But the way different people process and react to the exact same reality gives away their non-material structure.
And the examples given here are striking because they rely on these massive behavioral contracts.
We really are extreme examples.
Like, one person is absolutely paralyzed by the terror of bungee jumping, right? While another person just throws themselves off the bridge with a massive smile on their face.
Yeah, same bridge, completely different internal experience.
Exactly. And to illustrate extreme variations in software, the author brings up Guan Yu, the legendary historical Chinese military general.
Oh, the bone-scraping story.
Yes. Supposedly, Guan Yu sat there calmly chatting, laughing, and literally playing a board game while a doctor sliced his arm open and scraped his bone to remove poison.
Which is a notoriously brutal, agonizing procedure.
And performed without modern anesthesia, by the way.
Right. Meanwhile, someone with a different non-material structure will grimace, sweat, and just grit their teeth over a tiny prick during a routine needle injection.
Yeah, the pain stimulus is, well, it's obviously different in scale, but the internal processor handling the concept of pain is vastly different.
Exactly. The author even throws in a slightly exaggerated cultural anecdote to make the point.
Oh, yeah, the one about the travelers.
Right, noting a saying that goes, if you see a woman traveling alone, she must be American. If you see a woman sitting on the ground crying, she must be Chinese.
And the author admits that statement is an exaggeration, right? But uses it to insist that cultural and spiritual programming creates entirely different operating systems beneath identical physical surfaces.
It all comes down to attachment and perspective.
Yeah, and there's this incredibly tragic example in the text about an ordinary person who gets so distraught over a $1,000 tuition fee for their child that they actually hang themselves.
It's so sad, yeah.
But to another person, $1,000 is treated like waste paper.
It's the exact same amount of money.
Literally the same paper.
But to one person, it's a reason to end their existence, and to another, it's totally meaningless.
And the text applies the same concept of non-material structure to intellect as well, right?
Yes, it mentions the 6th patriarch Huineng, who is a deeply revered figure in Zen Buddhism.
Right, the guy who worked in the kitchen.
Exactly. Huineng was completely illiterate. He famously worked in the monastery kitchen just pounding rice all day.
Yeah.
Yet, he intuitively mastered the most profound, complex doctrines of the faith instantly upon hearing them.
Instantly.
Right. And you contrast him with lifelong scholars who study texts endlessly for decades, but just end up becoming stubborn pedants who completely miss the actual truth.
You know, this really reminds me of the modern psychological concept of fixed versus growth mindsets, but like applied on a massive cosmic scale.
Oh, that's an interesting connection.
Because it's not about how much data you can manually upload to your brain through studying. It's about the fundamental capacity of your spiritual processor.
Right.
So child prodigies and intuitive historical masters are essentially operating on a completely different software level than a scholar who just memorizes facts.
A scholar can only teach what they know within the bounds of conventional thinking.
Right.
But someone with this higher non-material structure, possessing what the text calls unconventional thinking, they can rule mountains or command armies.
Wow.
They bypass intellect entirely and tap into direct spiritual knowing.
So if figures like Winning the Illiterate Master or Guan Yu the Unbothered Warrior, if they represent this high earthly potential, what is the ceiling?
You mean, where does this hierarchy end?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the author doesn't stop at earthly saints or historical legends.
Of course not.
No, this worldview builds an intricate taxonomy of what it calls celestials.
Okay, break that down for us.
So it scales upward from human celestials, which the author equates to perfected beings or saints on earth, up to ghost celestials, land celestials, and deity celestials.
So it's literally the gemstone categories all over again, but for enlightened consciousness.
Exactly. And the absolute pinnacle, the flawless diamond of this entire spiritual hierarchy is what the text calls the super celestial being.
The super celestial being.
Yes. And to give you a sense of scale and ambition here, the author claims that becoming a Buddha is actually easy
Well,
compared to becoming a super celestial being.
wait, hold on. Becoming a Buddha is easy.
I know, it's a huge statement.
That is a massive claim. Achieving Buddhahood is the ultimate finish line for entire global religions. It represents total liberation from the cycle of suffering. And this text treats it like a mere stepping stone on the way to something bigger.
It is framed as a profoundly difficult ultimate upgrade, yes. And the text gets incredibly specific about the geography of where these beings exist.
Oh, right. It actually gives locations.
It does. It names their headquarters as the Celestial Islands continent of the Elysium world and specifically locates them on Snow Peak Island.
Snow Peak Island. I mean, it sounds like a location in a high fantasy novel.
It really does.
But we have to remember the author presents this as literal functional geography in another dimension. And we even get introduced to a specific character there, right? A super celestial named Yu.
Yes, you.
Yeah.
And she serves as the ultimate example of this unconventional thinking in action.
What can she do?
Well, she doesn't just process reality differently, she dictates it. According to the text, she can instantly become invisible.
Wow.
She possesses infinite transformative powers. With a single gesture or just a single thought, she can create endless phenomena.
So reality just bends entirely to her intention. She thinks it, and it happens.
Exactly. And what's fascinating about this section is how Schwiffing synthesizes different global traditions to explain the mechanics of Yui's power.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Because to justify this ability to alter reality with a mere thought, the text unexpectedly quotes Jesus.
Right.
It references the biblical teaching that faith as small as a mustard seed can move mountains.
That crossover is just wild to me.
Very unexpected.
It is. You have this complex framework of Eastern cultivation moving through spiritual ranks, striving for Snow Peak Island, but then the author uses Western religious tenets to illustrate the raw mechanical power of pure intention.
It bridges those traditions to make a universal point.
Yeah, that history is full of beings who accessed a higher non-material structure, allowing them to manipulate reality in ways that look like magic to an ordinary person.
Which leaves us with the ultimate question, doesn't it?
Yeah, if we are following the logic of this text, how does a person listening right now actually achieve this reality-bending state?
Right. How do you upgrade your software?
Exactly. How do you go from stressing over $1,000 to moving mountains with a mustard seed of faith?
Well, the barrier, according to Schwiffing, is our absolute reliance on the standard 5 senses.
Vision, hearing, smell, taste, and touch?
Right. We treat them as the only arbiters of truth. And to make this quantum leap up the hierarchy, the author says you have to completely abandon your reliance on those physical inputs.
And activate what?
Something called spiritual perception.
Spiritual perception.
Yes. And the skeptics are totally called out here.
Oh, I bet they are.
The author knows that to most people, cultivating immortality or striving to become a celestial just sounds like nonsense.
Well, yeah, it sounds like a daydream to a rationalist.
Exactly. And why? Because ordinary people are completely tethered to objective reality. They have what the text calls Mortal eyes.
Mortal eyes, meaning if they can't see it, hear it, or prove it with basic three-dimensional scientific evidence, they reject it entirely.
Right. But the author doesn't just reject modern science. They actually recruit it to prove the existence of this unseen mystical world.
Which is such an interesting rhetorical move.
It is. The text cites quantum mechanics, specifically pointing out the observer effect.
Okay, let's talk about the observer effect.
So at the subatomic level, modern physics has demonstrated that the movement and state of particles are actually influenced by the mere act of observation.
Right, the famous double-slit experiment kind of stuff.
Exactly. The consciousness of the observer literally changes the physical reality of the particle. And the author leverages this to say, look, your own physicists are realizing that consciousness alters matter.
And it also references the famous water crystallization experiments by Japanese scientists like Masaru Emoto.
Yes, those were huge in the early 2000s.
Yeah, these experiments claim to demonstrate that human consciousness, like specific words and emotions, could physically change the geometric structure of water molecules when they froze.
Right, so beautiful words created beautiful crystals, and hateful words created chaotic, ugly structures.
By bringing up quantum mechanics and water crystals, the author is providing a mechanical explanation for the magic.
They're arguing that thoughts have literal mass, or at least a physical impact.
Right. The bridge between mind and matter isn't a metaphor in this text, it's physics.
And then there was the invisible wave argument, which is just a brilliant rhetorical device.
I love this part.
The text points out that human eyes cannot see ultraviolet rays. We can't see infrared rays, cathode rays, or radio waves.
No, of course not.
But we undeniably know they exist, and they entirely govern our modern world.
Yeah, it's an argument from induction. Like, we accept invisible waves without question. We build our entire societies around them.
Right.
So if we accept those, why is it so impossible to imagine vastly larger, more complex worlds existing just beyond the narrow frequency of our three-dimensional space?
Exactly.
It's like, imagine living in a world completely saturated with Wi-Fi. Data is constantly flowing through the air right now, containing entire libraries of information, movies, conversations.
Oh, totally invisible.
Right. But imagine refusing to believe in the internet simply because you can't physically see the radio waves with your mortal eyes.
You would be living in a tiny, restricted fraction of reality, entirely by choice.
And the author takes that Wi-Fi analogy to its absolute extreme, don't they?
Oh, definitely. If these unseen waves and frequencies exist, the text argues, then a person who has activated their spiritual perception can actually tap into them.
Like a human antenna.
Yes, and they can travel superluminally, meaning faster than light, through space and time tunnels.
The author makes another claim here that honestly completely stopped me in my tracks.
Oh, about imagination.
Yes, the text states that almost everything the human mind can imagine actually exists.
It's a staggering thought.
It really is. It might not exist in our current time and space, but it exists somewhere.
So is Whiffing implying that our imagination isn't just making things up, but is actually a form of sight?
Yes, exactly.
Like our brains are antennas tuning into these other dimensions.
That is the exact implication. The text even explicitly mentions science fiction writers to support this.
Really? Science fiction? Yeah. It suggests that their seemingly wild fantasies are actually accurate descriptions of real existences in other dimensions.
That is fascinating.
Some of those concepts will become future realities here on Earth, while others are simply verifying what already exists in an alternate space.
So in this framework, imagination is literally the spiritual perception picking up signals from the broader universe. You aren't inventing the idea, you are receiving it.
Right, you're just downloading it from the universal Wi-Fi.
Wow. Okay, we have covered a massive amount of conceptual ground here.
We really have.
We've gone from categorizing human souls like grades of diamonds to the realities of Snow Peak Island to quantum mechanics and treating imagination as a literal antenna.
It's a lot to process.
It is. But having explored this grand multidimensional theory, we have to bring it back down to earth and ask the so what question.
Practical application.
Yeah. What does this all mean for you, the listener, right now, sitting in traffic or doing the dishes in your 3D reality?
Well, the practical application, according to the final thesis of the text, is a massive qualitative leap in your existence.
Okay, how big of a leap?
The author claims that a person who understands these secrets, who masters spiritual perception, and fundamentally shifts their way of thinking, can achieve in one single minute what would take an ordinary person 10,000 years to accomplish.
1 minute versus 10,000 years.
Yeah, it's quite the ROI.
I mean, my first instinct is to joke that this is the ultimate productivity hack, right? But the author is talking about something much more profound than that.
Right. It's not about doing your chores faster.
No, it's about a complete transformation of how a human exists.
And the text explicitly states that the form of your existence is shaped entirely by your way of thinking.
Wow.
Once you understand this, your life structure alters permanently. And the author provides this text, the Celestial Cultivation chapter, as the manual for that transformation.
Because the preface claims that the full text will reveal the actual meaning of death, isn't it?
It does. It promises to clearly describe what happens after we die.
And the whole point is to prove that every single word you speak and every action you take in this current three-dimensional space is actively constructing the architecture of your future reality.
Which turns the text into an incredibly urgent call to action.
Yeah, it's not just passive philosophy.
Not at all. The author defends the overarching philosophy behind this, a system of thought referred to as Chanyuan, not as some delusion or baseless cult of personality.
Right, but as a priceless treasure trove of human wisdom.
Exactly. And the closing plea of the preface is surprisingly moving, honestly.
Yeah, it is.
It asks the reader to quickly awaken their spiritual perception and not to waste precious time merely surviving in mundane society.
Like, don't just mix around in the secular world is the vibe. Every minute, every second is invaluable. There is a profound empowerment hidden inside this ancient feeling text. It's telling you that by fundamentally shifting how you think and by trusting in the unseen limits of your own consciousness, you are literally altering the structure of the universe around you.
It is challenging the listener to step off the granite floor of ordinary existence and, well, reach for the diamond tier of their own potential.
Okay, let's briefly recap this incredible journey we've been on in this deep dive.
Sure.
We started with a provocative premise from Harar in 2005, categorizing human potential as rigidly as we categorize gemstones.
Right, the diamonds and the gravel.
Yeah. We looked at how unconventional thinking and non-material structure separate the ordinary from the legendary, like Guan Yu and Huining.
And then we scaled the heights of the spiritual hierarchy past Buddhas to the reality-bending super-celestials on Snow Peak Island.
And we explored how quantum mechanics, water crystals, and invisible waves are used to justify abandoning our reliance on the basic five senses.
It really is a sweeping architectural blueprint for a reality most of us have never considered. And it all hinges on the idea that consciousness is the ultimate building block of the universe.
So, a question to leave you with as you step back into your day. The text claims that the form of your existence is entirely shaped by your way of thinking.
Right.
It argues that absolutely everything the human mind imagines already exists somewhere in time and space, and that our minds are constantly tuning into these realities.
Like antennas.
Exactly. If that is true, if your imagination is quite literally the blueprint of reality, what kind of universe are you actively constructing with the daydreams, the anxieties, and the fleeting thoughts you had just this morning?